Cool. Like taking his time. There we go. Hello, everybody. It is Brady from Brightwork here in the United States, and I got my man Joe Evangelisti. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Brady? Thanks for having me on, man. It's exciting.
Thanks. Yeah, it's super exciting. Thanks for joining. We're going to be talking about Joe here about a bunch of cool stuff, real estate investing wise. But first, Joe is going to be coming to our Florida Mastermind, April 8th and 9th. So this is, high level mastermind, for 2 days full straight on in Cape Coral. We've got some awesome speakers, and Joe's one of them. So, we're really happy. We're super looking. I can't even talk right now. Looking forward to having you there. But let's get in this a little bit, Joe. Yeah. So just why don't you tell our watchers who you are, where you're from, what do you do, what have you been up to over the last bunch of years?
Yeah, man. Joe Evangelisti, obviously, you guys can see that, and I'm outside of Philadelphia in New Jersey, and what I've been doing the last couple of years has been self-storage development primarily. Background is that we did single-family fix and flip for 10 or 12 years, and got about 1,000 of those under our belt. And 3 or 4 years ago, we made a hard, kind of cold, stop and just quit cold turkey and switched into the self-storage industry. And it's interesting because at that time, I had an idea, an inclination. It was a badass industry, and it was something that was going to be fun and enjoyable for a lot of reasons, which we can get into. But luckily, as it were, COVID actually just really ramped this business up, and it's made it even more spectacular as an industry than even we thought it could be. And so it's a great time to be in the game.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. So like Joe, Joe's not very good at bragging about himself, but like he said, he did say 1,000 flips, flipping, wholesaling, you've written books.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right? Like we did four books done, 1,000 flips, tons of wholesale brokerage. We don't even count brokerage. That's another side gig, but yeah, no, I mean, this is, it's an iteration, right? I think that, one of the things that comes to mind when I think about the fact that I've been doing this for almost 15 years is Andy Frisella always had this great quote, and he said that success is an overnight. It's an overnight. It takes 3,650 days to become an overnight success. There's the quote, right? So that's basically 10 years for you guys to do math well. And, I really believe that, right? Like I'm in year 15 now, and it's like we're seeing these crazy, advances. Not that I haven't coached people that have been, where I was in 3 or 4 years, but I learned the hard way, man. I did everything wrong. I mean, everything you could do wrong to figure out how to do it right. So now I can help people try to avoid that and compress time and get stuff done a little bit more effective than we do, or did rather. And man, I'm just happy to be in the position that we're in, lucky and grateful to be surrounded by the teams that we have and the people we work with. And it's all, knock on wood, coming together really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so Joe, before we get into storage and why you love storage and development, what would you say? I know there's going to be a bunch of people coming to the mastermind, for example, that have done a handful of deals or maybe doing 10 deals a year.
Yep.
What and you've been there and got to the next level, and then again you keep on moving yourself, projecting yourself forward. Like what advice would you give to those guys that are doing they're doing it right, but like they want to push themselves to the next level? What would you say?
Yeah, my old mentor used to say, you don't have to get it right, you just have to get it going, right? Like the art is in the start, like taking action in a direction. The coolest thing about this industry, Brady, as you know, is we've trained people with zero real estate experience to gain $250,000 worth of cash and equity, all the way up to real estate developers like yourself who are going to be able to do a deal and make multiple millions of dollars because they took a little bit more risk and invested maybe a little bit more capital and got more involved on the banking side and learned how to, make connections with the contractors to build the property. So basically what I'm getting at is the more time and effort you put into this, the bigger the result you're going to get out of it. But the reality of it is you can put as few as maybe 10, 15 hours a week into this thing and be pretty successful at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I remember when I started out, I was, it was a side hustle for us, right? I had working full-time job. And I think the important thing too is just really trying to make sure you put the effort on to the right thing at the right time, right? Like wherever you say this all the time, where your focus goes to the opportunity flows. Energy flows, the opportunity flows, right? So, knowing what to do, what the next step is and making sure that you do the right thing first, I think is equally important and really can get people moving and,
100%
in the right direction. Cool. Okay, let's dive into self-storage. So,
Mm-hmm.
What gets you turned on about self-storage, and why did you get where did this big light bulb come off, for you
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah, self-storage solved a lot of problems for us, or issues, I would say. Not really problems, but it made life a whole lot easier for a multitude of different reasons. Number one is the scalability is massive, right? I could flip 100 houses and barely make what I can make in one self-storage deal if done right, right? So our goal is to do 10 self-storage deals a year, and literally, 10x, 20x the profitability and the margins that we were doing back when we were doing 100 houses, which, by the way, anybody who does house flips in volume knows that's a complete pain in the ass. And you got hundreds of subcontractors, and it's just a nightmare cash flow wise. And, this is like all compact into one deal, right? So it's like I'm doing maybe, 15, 20 houses in one deal instead of, doing them all over the place. And so for that reason, it's scalable. The teams are a lot more effective and efficient. Back when we were doing 90 or 100 houses, we had 50 people working for us. And I mean, I lost track of who was getting paid what and what payroll and what they were doing and processing this and processing that. And, now in the legacy team, we have about 15 people, 15 versus 50 doing literally 10, 20, 30x the volume of transactions is pretty crazy, and so, it's a much more manageable business. I think that can be said a lot for most commercial, right? I think some people scale up from singles to quadplexes to they're buying 50-unit apartment complexes, and so you can get the scalability.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things where it's like, I firmly believe from experience that if you have experience in any type of real estate development, fix and flip, wholesale, marketing, you know how to generate leads, you know how to talk to people, you know how to build relationships, you can transition into this industry very easily.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think your point to the scalability, I was just doing the math in my head. Like right now we have anywhere from 15 to 20 staff at any given point. We're doing probably $14 million in development right now.
Yep.
Like you're on path to do 200 million.
200 million under contract right now.
200 million, right? And the same amount of staff, right?
Yeah.
So again, I just that's just that's opening my eyes, and again, one of the reasons why I'm kind of following your lead and jumping into this as well.
Well, and that's the kind of crazy thing, right? Let's just do the math on it real quick. Like, one of these projects is worth 20 million. It's going to be about 10 to 12 million in hard cost construction, that type of thing. But if I was flipping 100 houses, and let's say they were worth 200 grand a piece, because that's what they were 4 or 5 years ago. And those same houses are probably worth 400 now. But imagine I was putting that much work into 100 projects. I'm probably only talking about 5 million, 10 million total if I went crazy for the whole year. Whereas this is like, if we do 10 deals, it's $100 million worth of construction, and I'm doing it with 15 people versus 45. It's mind bending to think about that. That's really true. And the reality is we might get to 20 staff, but I don't think our company will ever be more than maybe 25 people max. And that's if we're like full tilt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is going to be cool. And like, just even knowing that is kind of can be enough of a light bulb to expose the opportunity for people. Because I remember when I went looking back to the very first conversation I had with a guy who had 44 duplexes, back in 2014. I'm like, I didn't even realize that real estate investing was a full-time thing. Once I did, I'm like, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. Right. So I'm hoping people are watching you right now, Joe, and saying, holy crap, if he can do $200 million a year, then I can, right? Like, how do I do that?
Yep.
Right. And I know
that's the goal.
Like I know, and you're like you do coaching and stuff, but like you're the storage syndicate. Why don't you just like inside, like I'll just let you throw it out there, but like this is just an example of one way everybody that Joe helps people. And so why don't you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, the storage syndicate's one of my babies. It was really like born out of like, what is any great thing born out of? It's like necessity, right? Like it's necessity first, and then so you make creation out of it. And so like we had a necessity to put our off-market buyers, our developers, our designers, our contractors, our attorneys, and then our accredited investors, put them all in one environment. And like the necessity for that was that we were just getting bombarded left and right with, this guy wants to bid a contract. Me and Brian were just on the drive home for 20 minutes, and I had 2 conversations about people who wanted to bid massive chunks of our development deals, right? And so I kept having these conversations over and over again. I said, like, all right, guys, what if we created a true syndicate, right? It's a true syndicate in that you have to pay some skin in the game to get involved, right? You have to have some kind of monthly, skin in the game so that you'll be invested and you'll pay attention to what's going on in that group. But if you get involved, if you do the live trainings we teach, if you come to the events that we host, if you come and meet and network and build your network out, you can then do deals with the top dudes and women in the country, right? The guys that are building, my chief development officer has done over 300 self-storage developments. You get his ear. Like, what does it cost to get his time to answer your question? Like, I know what it costs me. It's thousands of dollars an hour, right? But for this, you get to talk to him and ask him questions. You get to talk to my guy who acquires anywhere between 10 and 20 self-storage developments a year in-house, and then he assigns 20 more, right? This is a guy who's underwriting more deals than most people in the country. He does 40, 50 underwritten deals a week, right? Get his ear and talk to him. But that's not just the byproduct. The byproduct is also you get to meet developers, right? So maybe you could sell deals to them if you're a bird dog and you're out there finding projects, and you can earn equity and you can earn cash assignment fees for doing deals with them. And secretly and selfishly, our goal, and I say this straight up, is if we put 200 people in there, right now we're at about 45. If we had 200 people in there and I was doing deals personally with 10, 15, 20% of them at any given time, it's a huge win, right? Because I create an environment where I can help them win and we can help exchange equity. The other 80% are just going to learn from us and go on and do their own thing. And I hope they make millions of dollars. But the bottom line is this: it's $1,000 a month. And anybody really taking their business seriously, that's nothing, right? Like I've lost subscriptions for that and not even known. I've joined masterminds for that and never even gotten involved, right? Like, so for people to tap into that space, especially people who take their business seriously, to pay 12 grand to potentially do a deal and make $250,000, to me, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely no brainer. And that kind of like, that's good kind of prelude into like just surrounding yourself with the right people and going to masterminds and learning from the best and turning decades into days, as you like to say it. Like, how important has that been on your progression in your career and your growth?
Absolute paramount to my growth, right? I got into masterminds, coaching, mentorship, group events, all that stuff over 10 years ago. And to this day, I still spend well over 150 grand a year investing in my own knowledge, going to other groups, not just, my stuff, but going to other groups, getting coaches to work with me, mentors one-on-one, paying them for their time. The results are always 100 times more than if you were to pick up the phone and try to make a relationship and not create some kind of value, right? It's human nature. Like, when we're tied into something, we work for it. Like, I don't want to disclose our deal right now, but I'm tied into it. That's going to make me want to get out of bed and go work with it, right? Like, it's a part of it. So I think that what happens is when we start to become, invested in what it is, whether it's us putting money out or our time has to be invested, all of a sudden our energy, like you said, our focus goes where my energy flows. And when I'm dialed into doing things that I'm invested in, I'm always going to get more of a result because I paid for it.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So that kind of leaves us to just a reminder that Joe is going to be coming to our Florida Mastermind April 8th and 9th. And I mean, Joe has a million things he could be talking about. Like I said, flipping, you're hearing it, storage, mindset, wholesaling deals, building a team. And, we've kind of discussed this when I asked Joe if he would speak, and he's like, listen, Brady, let's just figure out what these people need. And we'll solve those problems. We won't create the itinerary because that's our itinerary. We'll create the itinerary based on solving the people's needs that actually show up. So
100%.
And I think that's great advice. And really, obviously you'll be coming down for the weekend and, and for whoever comes, these are all real estate people in, different phases. Like there's some are fixed, some are flippers, some are wholesalers, some are people just want to buy some Airbnbs in sunny Florida or somewhere in the United States. Some people may be like me where they're doing lots of deals and want to get into storage syndications or apartment buying or developing. Like you don't know, but there's going to be it's going to be the right room for a lot of highly successful and driven entrepreneurs. So DM me for that and make sure you follow Joe. I'll maybe drop your location, your stuff in the comments, Joe. But thanks a lot thanks for taking the time here, pal, and giving us some insight and all this great stuff, and we look forward to seeing you on April 8th and 9th.
Absolutely, brother. Look, for anyone that's listening, I'll just say this. It's absolutely, if you haven't done this before and invested in yourself, what is holding you back, right? What has to happen for you to decide now is the time? I want to actually get involved. A lot of you have been watching this and probably been following Brady for a long, long time. And this has been actually, this is the first time you've had an event in a long time. Am I right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, okay. That's right. First one.
Right. So like if you're on that fence and you've been following Brady, now's the time. This might be your tap on the shoulder, your calling to say, okay, it's time to get involved. Right. I want to be able to, depending on how many people are in that room, solve one of the high level problems for each one of them one-on-one. Like we will sit there in group and figure out what their issues are, whether it's building a team, building a culture, hiring the right people, expanding and scaling, right? Getting into a different industry. Like the two of us have failed at more things than most people have tried. Right. So the benefit of that experience is what happens in rooms like that. So I hope to see you guys there.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks again, Joe. Have a great day.
Yeah, brother. Later.
Okay. Cheers.